Get together with your family, get together with your friends. If you don't put it on the calendar, it's not going to happen. You keep saying, oh yeah, we're going to do that someday. Do it tomorrow, do it next week, do it next month. Don't put those things off. I mean, that is the spice of life. Money doesn't make you happy. It might give you more choices, but really it's just about people and spending time together.
One day, family is going to be everything to you. Love your sister, love your brother, love your parents, love your cousins. Because one day, they're not going to be there. And I think that's what this show is all about. This particular episode is one day some people that we love very dearly, namely our parents in this particular episode, are not going to be here. What can we do to ease that for them and then take care of ourselves at the same time?
When you're a kid, your parents are your heroes, or you think they're impervious to being sad or invincible. And I think a lot of it was shifting my own paradigm of my mother, because the person who she was is not who she is now. And so I think changing my own expectations has helped me be more present and be there for her, where anymore it's really hard to have a conversation with her because she doesn't dialogue. You have to pull something out of her. And early on, I was always waiting for her to engage, so I've been able to shift again my expectations and my paradigm so I can just be there. Sometimes it's just sitting with her.
Raw, uncut, and unapologetic. Welcome to Men Talking Mindfulness.
Caring for aging parents isn't just an idea anymore. It's becoming more of a reality every passing month. My parents are now 79 and 86 years old. I see them growing more fragile, losing a bit of their sharpness, and needing my support more often. Each visit, each phone call brings moments of love along with reminders of how much has changed. It's both heartbreaking and humbling to help with things that they once did for me. It's a hard subject for anyone in this situation, so we thought it would be helpful to dedicate an episode and bring more life to this deeply human experience. We are joined today by David Valadez, who is part of the Men Talking Mindfulness team, who has his own experience to share. So for anyone walking this path, know that you're not alone. We're in this together, learning, stumbling, and growing through every challenge and every act of care. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the show, gentlemen. It's great to be back. And God, as I read this, I'm like, all these kind of feelings are coming up already, because this is it's something that's really starting to hit home more and more. And just a little, we just finished our 79th actual family reunion this weekend. So we're recording this on whatever today, Tuesday the 15th or something like that. Just after I was just home 3 days ago doing this reunion. So good to be back, gentlemen. John, what's next?
Yeah. Hey, Will, David, good to see you guys. Yeah. I mean, as you read that, a lot of emotions bubbled up in me as well. So which we'll get into here shortly. And incidentally, we're actually recording this on my parents' 58th anniversary.
Oh, wow.
And I reached out to them yesterday. It's a little difficult to reach out to your parents and say, hey, I'm doing an episode on taking care of my elderly parents. And I don't want to say that I'm taking care of them, because I live here in Colorado Springs and my parents live in Ruston, Louisiana. And we'll get into that in a little bit. But there's still an aspect of it that is caring for them and taking care of them in a way. So anyhow, announcements, the same announcements we've had for a while now. We've got our just check out our website, mentalkingmindfulness.com. It's got all the things, our upcoming episodes. It's got our upcoming Spartan race that we're going to be doing down in Dallas, and we'd love to have you join us as part of the team there. We've got a few people signed up already, and that's in October. And then everything else is on the site. So check it out. And as we start every show, we're going to do one breath grounding practice to get ourselves, the three of us here, settled, and for you all that are joining us either on video or on audio. So thanks for joining us. And that said, let's get into a comfortable position, whatever that might look like for you. Now we'll begin with a nice exhale, letting everything out. Emptying, bring your navel to your spine, and holding empty at the bottom for a moment. And then a nice, long, slow, deep breath in, filling all the way to the top, and holding full, and letting go. Letting go. All right.
We didn't give you a chance to say hello to David yet. So, David, hi.
Yeah, we did. We both said hi.
We did. David didn't say hi today.
The cousin from another oven today again. Thank you. Thank you for having me back.
Yeah,
Good
David
to have you back,
has
David.
been on our show before, also to discuss a somewhat difficult conversation topic. We spoke about divorce last time. It seems that we have
Yeah.
David on to speak about difficult topics. So we were
Family and
in person
difficulties.
last time. We'd gotten together for. I think we were getting together for our first MTM summit. We had another one this spring here in Colorado Springs. And actually, no, it wasn't for our summit. We were doing something else. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Bottom line, this is the second time we've had David on. David is our senior business advisor, also our junior business advisor.
And intern.
And the intern business advisor.
So anyway, great to have you here with us, David. So you've shared your experiences, with helping with your parents, and something that we're going to talk about today is being fully present with your parents. Actively listening, without judgment or rushing. And that's where I struggle. And that's where I struggle with everyone. Unfortunately, as a mindfulness practitioner who's supposed to be preaching and practicing compassion and love, I do, unfortunately, get wrapped up in rushing through things. And that patience and that presence can be the most valuable gift for both ourselves and those that we're caring about. That specifically today we're speaking about our elderly parents. What have been some of the ways that you have accomplished this being present, fully present, actively listening without judgment or rushing with your parents?
I just help them more often, like I do when I'm home. I do like to cook, so I do just a lot of cooking. And my dad is interesting. He likes to always kind of instruct and demand or direct authoritatively sometimes, like what to do. So it just like sometimes I'll just do what he says, you know what I mean, and not try to combat with him in some ways. So I think just being there and being with them, and just my dad loves to watch baseball, so I like baseball too, but I don't feel like I need to watch a game. So I sit and watch a game with him a little bit. We talk about sports, and my mom, just having longer conversations with her. She's slowed down significantly over the last few years from a really botched hip operation. So like just for her to leave the house is like 5 or 10 minutes. So it really slows me down tremendously. Because I want to rush too. I want to get to the theater. I want to get to dinner. I want to do this, and so I just really enjoy more of all the moments in between, and every step that she takes, I'm just right there with her. So
There you
it's
go,
hard.
man.
It's really hard.
It is. For sure.
Yeah,
David?
I think for me, one thing, my wife's mother actually, she had some early on-stage dementia and Alzheimer's, hit her mid-70s, and now she's been at home for the last 3 years because she does need full care. So once my mother started having some challenges here within the last, I'd say 3 years or so, not as progressive, and she's a little older than my wife's mother, but it was interesting because being exposed to my mother-in-law first, it helped me with my own mother a little bit just because I was prepared for it. But I think the biggest challenge for me and the biggest, I guess, benefit of the relationship is early on. I remember making comments to my siblings and my sister in particular because she's her primary caregiver, but almost saying I didn't recognize my mom anymore. I don't, oh, she was never like that. She was never, when you're a kid, your parents are your heroes, or you think they're, impervious to being sad or invincible. And I think a lot of it was shifting my own paradigm of my mother, because the person who she was is not who she is now. And so I think changing my own expectations has helped me be more present and be there for her, where anymore it's really hard to have a conversation with her because she doesn't dialogue. You have to pull something out of her. And early on, I was always waiting for her to engage, so I've been able to shift again my expectations and my paradigm so I can just be there. Sometimes it's just sitting with her and watching a sporting event or even watching the news. She watches the news too much, but that's kind of her thing sometimes. So if it's just having a cup of coffee when I'm visiting and sitting with her, a lot of it again has just been changing my expectations because it's not about me, and that's a hard thing, to shift with your parents because you're used to them taking care of you, and it becomes a little bit of a role reversal for us.
I've definitely felt all that, and I got to be honest, it's going to be difficult to make it through this conversation without tearing up quite a bit. My parents are their early 80s, and still have all their faculties, and I'm definitely blessed in that. But I know, the time is eventually coming. But to deal with this presence piece, I don't know. It must have been 6 or 7, maybe more years ago than that. I interviewed my parents on a Zoom call, and I recorded it. It was like 3 hours long, man. Like, I asked them all the questions that I've ever wanted to ask them. And then since then, more life has been lived. And this is not a plug for this particular company at all, but I don't know if you can see that, but there's a book now. It's called Ian and Glenn. That's my parents' names. And it's dad and mom, and it's put together by this company called Storyworth. And Storyworth is, they send a question once a week via email to your parents. And I actually sent one to each one of them every week for a year, and then compiled it into one book. And you get the responses via email. And man, the things that I learned about my parents, like you were talking, David, it humanized them. In my eyes, my parents are still my heroes. They're still my heroes to this day, and probably always will be, even after they're gone. But yes, in my eyes, my parents were kind of invincible, and this listening to them, be it through that interview or be it through this book, has really humanized them in a good way. And I think that's helped me to connect with them and know that we're all mortal. If you ever want to read a really powerful book about death in and of itself, it's a book called Being Mortal. Man, that'll change the way that you perceive others' mortality and your own, also in a good way. But yeah, it's definitely a practice being present with them, because we've all got our own lives. I've got young kids now. Right now, I'm a father, and being able to stay in touch with my parents who are geographically separated from me. I have to. I'm ashamed to admit this because my parents are going to listen to this episode later. I have to put it on my to-do list. It pops up every so often. Hey, call mom and dad, because otherwise I'll get wrapped up in my own life and unfortunately kind of neglect that connection point. So,
or moving on to the next thing, right?
Yeah, or move on to the next thing. Absolutely.
Right. One thing I'll say about listening, I think, you mentioned dementia, and we actually had Dr. Mark Gordon on talking about neurodegenerative diseases, and go back and listen to that episode for really some great information on that. And as far as like listening goes, like my mom is really suffering with like some dementia. Like, she's there and she's present and she recognizes me. We have great conversations, but like literally her memory right now is like maybe 3 minutes, 5 minutes. It's like, it's really short. Like, really, there's been times where, we'll move from the house to the car. We'll get in the car. She's like, where we're going? I'm like, we just talked about the shopping list 5 minutes ago, but so what I've been trying to do when I do talk to her on the phone, is not being like, oh, mom, I told you this. Like, not like, oh, hey, like, yeah, we talked about that yesterday, and just trying to like not make them feel bad or ashamed in some way that like that they, or just even really bring up or even the possibility of the decline, because it doesn't, I just don't want them to feel bad that they're repeating themselves. That's another way that I'm trying to stay present and try to hold space for them and let them like tell the same story again and again and laugh at it. In some ways it's like they've done their time. Like they've done a lot for me. Like your parents have, both of you, I'm sure. So it's just like, let them, have these moments together,
And we're going to be there one day. Ourselves, probably in one way or another. There is a level of frustration at times. So I'll tell you, I went to Australia, and I've talked about this a little bit on the show before. Went to Australia a couple months back with my parents, and my eldest daughter And, one of the reasons I was going was to help my parents. And unfortunately, I lost my temper a few times with them, which when I took a step back, I actually sat through a therapy session about this very thing, is I was really upset with myself about that because, eventually we're all going to lose our parents. And I turned what should have been an extremely special time with them into a time of self-centeredness. um, and then I felt an anticipatory grief. Okay, like my parents are still here with us, here as far as on the planet. Yes, geographically they're separated, but at one time or another down the road they're not going to be. And that anticipatory grief is what my therapist told me that I was struggling with. That's going to be there for all of us. And then it's eventually going to turn into real grief. But that doesn't mean we have to turn the moment right now into a grieving moment. We can enjoy the here and now. And at the same time, we've got to give our parents the dignity and the respect. I mean, they've earned the respect. They've raised us, right? We got to respect them. And that's one thing I was not doing. So one thing this show, just this very episode, is I think going to help to drive home to me is respect your elders, damn it. Right. I love my parents to death, and I need to be better about, one, staying in contact with them, and then two, respecting who they are, what they've done for us, sacrifices, efforts, and then take a step back and not get frustrated, because guess what? The aging is a part of everybody's life. I'm sure my kids are going to get frustrated with me down the road. Hell, they're already getting frustrated with me. So yeah, it's just a matter of time. So
it's so nice to just to be there. I think is really, I mean, phone calls and the FaceTimes and stuff are good, but like nothing, could take the place of actually physically being there. And it's really, I feel that anticipatory grief in some ways, but also it's a grief almost I like collectively, because every time I go home, they're immediately, and as I'm like getting closer to leaving, they're like, when are you coming back? And I've never heard so much urgency in that question.
Oh,
in some ways it's like, there's almost like and Glenn, my little brother, is home with them now, thankfully. So it makes things a little bit easier for all of us. I have another brother that lives about an hour away. I'm in New York, about 3 hours away from them. More like 5 hours, 4 hours to kind of actually get back there to see them. But
yeah.
It's just, oh God. I mean, like I wrote down in my notes, I'm like, comic relief. So find a moment, to have like, laugh a little bit, because it just gets so heavy.
Yeah.
I don't know what that's going to look like during this podcast, but I'm just like, oh, wow. Or maybe this is me also wanting to run from it or some ways, but yeah, David.
Yeah. And just one thing to chime in too, for, the people on the call that aren't on the call, not the call, the show, but your Men Talking Mindfulness out there. We're talking about our parents in a positive way. I mean, I lost my dad at 16. He hasn't been around for a long time, but my mom, she went through a lot of shit to get 2 kids still in school through and whatnot. But there's a lot of people too that don't have good relationships with their parents. And, so I wanted to make sure and talk just that, we're not looking at this with rose-colored glasses and everything's all peachy. I mean, one of my wife's good friends, her mother had Alzheimer's. She had to take care of her, and she did not have a great relationship. And really, she ended up being her primary caregiver when she probably had the worst relationship of all the siblings. So above and beyond people who have good relationships with their aging parents and struggling to deal with them, the people who have bad relationships and then are stuck in that place, it's even harder for them. So, I think we want to talk about all the challenges with that, but ultimately the whole Men Talking Mindfulness angle too is to take care of yourself, and we'll get to that. But just, I want to make sure we acknowledge that there's people out there struggling even beyond us with those challenges, with those relationship challenges with their parents.
Yeah, I mean, I great point, David. So thank you for that. And I will say that, one of our listeners, regular listeners, and he's also gone through our retreats. He's become friends with us. he had his father living at home with him. He has since passed away. His father did, but he had his father living at home with him. And they did not have a good relationship. As a matter of fact, they struggled, and they struggled before he was living at home with them. And then when he did come and live with them, it was that much more difficult. So, I try to empathize with that situation for sure. But then, yes, taking care of yourself, whether you're a primary caretaker for, your parents, your spouse, your children, when you become a caretaker for others, whether it's because that's just the position you're in or whether there's a sickness or aging, one of the first things to drop as far as on that priority list is yourself. And I've felt that as a dad. I felt that as a husband in the past. And I'm sure at some point or another, we've all felt that or will feel that. So yeah, great point. So thank you for that, David. All right. So let's talk about, maintaining dignity and independence for our parents, right? As they age, they want to, they don't want to put a burden on us, right? They want to be able to make their own choices, whenever possible. What can we do, to support them in this? I think I mentioned before, I reached out to my parents to find out what they would like to hear on this show, because they are going to listen. And my parents, they said, having pets, like having a pet to play with or take care of, right? That it's an empty nest, right? I mean, it's been an empty nest for 30 plus years at our house. So they've had pets, they've had hobbies. My parents both cycle, still to this day, quite a bit. My mom and dad, they both get out in the garden. My mom gardens. My dad fixes up all the little trinkets in the garden. My mom knits. So having some type of hobby is very important for them. For you guys, what have you seen are some of the best ways that you can kind of support this dignity and this independence? David, I'll start with you.
I mean, it's hard because, my mom now is 85, and a couple of years ago, she decided that she wanted to sell her home and go into an independent living community. And so we found her a place where they did have independent living, and she could progress if she needed increased care down the road. She could progress through their facility, their care facility. And, it was at the time, it seemed like a very open-eyed, very conscious decision. Unfortunately, that only lasted about 6 months, and then she didn't want to stay there, and we had to reshuffle a lot of things, readjust. It was a very trying time. It created a lot of strife within the family because the siblings didn't all agree necessarily on what was next. And I think now, after these last few events, we still anymore we all make sure we're all in agreement with whatever decision is going to be made, but we do push back a little bit more. I mean, we want to know what she wants, what our mother wants. My sister is her primary caregiver, so she gets an extra vote in the whole thing. But we all sit down with her, and if we don't feel like she's making the right decision, we don't necessarily tell her she's wrong, but we'll present why, and we just tell her, well, this is what we collectively think needs to be done, because it's hard to tell her, number one, that she's wrong, because that's not something you want to do with our aging parents at that place. But then we want to make sure the family's aligned, because then those decisions hold more weight. So they're not just, oh, well, one person believes this, because just like any human, they'll try to recruit. They'll talk to one sibling, and then the other child, and try to get somebody on their side or whatever. And I think, yeah, it is a lot of allies. And so we do listen, but we push back a little more, just because her condition has progressed a little bit. I mean, she can still fully function, take care of herself, do all the, the basic care needs and all that stuff. But as far as the big picture of, what is the right decision, where should she live, how much should, rent or things like that cost, collectively, we make those decisions.
Yeah.
What about you, Will?
My parents are they're pretty independent still. Like my dad, even 86, gets to the gym like a few times a week, which is great. They're still driving. There's my dad. Like, I mean, I'm really impressed what in good shape my dad is. He still has his mind as well, which is good. And I don't know, he's been taking supplements like his whole life, so maybe that has a lot to do with it. And he seems to always add one more when I get by the one next time I'm home. So I mean, good for him. Kudos to him. He's not on any pharmaceuticals at all, which is great. So I mean, I mean, how do I support them? I just let them keep doing what they're doing. Now, one thing that I make sure I do, it's like I don't want to. I can just so quickly and easily do so many things, whether it's like making a bed or making a meal or running to the store or doing something. And I make sure like I help them to realize like, hey, well, you can do this too. You know what I mean? Like, I think you should take your energy, your time, like, and give yourself that eventual reward of like actually completing something instead of letting it be done for you. So as long as they're still capable, I think you should just let them do things that they have normally always done. So I think that's one way to share that independence with them.
Yeah, I think as a son, as a daughter, wanting to give back to our parents who gave us so much, there's probably a desire to step in as often as you want or as often as you can. But I think there's much like being a parent, watching your kids struggle to do X, Y, or Z, you're like, oh, well, let me just step in and do it for you. Well, what's that doing for the kid? It's taking away a sense of independence. It's taking away a sense of pride. It's almost taking away a little bit of their dignity. Well, if we step in whenever we want to, as a son or a daughter, as a child, for our parents, then that's probably doing the same thing, taking away a sense of their dignity and independence. Don't step in all the time, but step in when they truly need it. Maybe ask them. Maybe truly, hey, mom and dad, I want to be as helpful as I can without stepping on your toes. Where can I help? So let's talk about that very thing, like the practical support. What are some things that we can do to help with daily tasks? You mentioned, Will, that your dad's still driving. My parents are both still driving. Maybe if they're not, maybe you can offer some type of transportation. You can help them manage their medications. Really as a primary caretaker, potentially. Like, I don't live at home, but I've got 3 of my sisters who live in my parents' hometown. There's a good chance that they're going to be helping a lot with that. So they've got to stay informed about the medical needs, right? Whatever those might be, whether it's visits or actual medicine, the legal documents, insurance. I talked to my mom, or both my parents, again via text for this show again, and I said, what are some things that you would recommend that we could help you with? And she didn't necessarily come up with things that we could help with, but things that she said that they had done as a couple. And she said that they eat well. She said they skip red meat. So my parents are pescatarians. I'm personally not a big fan of skipping red meat. I like my red meat, but staying active, right? And that doesn't necessarily mean getting out on your bikes every day like my parents do, but they also go out and walk the dog. And then my mom said, and a little red wine every day doesn't hurt either.
There you
go. I love that. And I think there is medical support for that, but I think also just relaxing and being like, you know what?
Yeah.
By God, I'm 80 X years old. I can have my glass of wine.
my dad has his 3 o'clock Manhattan.
There you go. There you go.
Hey, there's the
data. Two data points.
Yeah, lots of supplements and a 3 o'clock Manhattan with the little cherry juice in it. The maraschino cherries or whatever juice is in it. I just make sure they're fed. But yeah, go for it, John.
Yeah, what's the practical support that you guys feel that you can offer, and what's the best way to go about doing that?
We just had, I make sure they're fed, or like at least every time I'm going home, I'm buying groceries and definitely more they eat a lot of shit food. And I'm like, oh my God. So I try to cook for them. I try to, or just get a roasted chicken for them or something like that. One thing that we did last time I was home, and that guy's funny, just before the show started, this guy texted me, we're going to get we have a, 2-story house. So they're going to need like a little chairlift. for the up and down the stairs. So I coordinated a guy that came out and did an assessment and stuff like that. So we're probably going to get one of those installed as well. So just like supporting him in that way, I think has been very helpful. I've been trying any doctor's appointments and stuff like that with them, but they're, they were kind of unwilling to relinquish any kind of control or want any kind of help in those areas. So I'm just like, I'll keep asking questions and offering support if they want it, but that seems to be like a no-no for them right now, which is tough, because also one thing I see with my parents and that, I guess what boomer generation is they just blindly trust the doctors, and I just don't know always that if that's the best course of action, or at least like go look for a second opinion. My parents are still locked in with, the same doctor that they've had for 40 years. And I'm like, I don't know if he's doing the best for you, and they don't want to hear any of that. So it's like
probably, 40 years.
No,
they're 80 something, so he's probably 80 something as well.
Yeah, he's probably 75, and now he's 350 pounds. I'm like, he doesn't look like a healthy doctor, mom and dad. So anyway, like I just offer support when I can. Lots of phone calls. I'm lucky I have two brothers that live much one's in the house and one's close by, yeah, God, it's a slow thing too. It's like, that's why one of the reasons I keep, I'm always calling them probably like a couple times a week, just to see what their needs are, you know what I mean? And then or how I can help them, or just to talk to them in some way, and then communicate that to my other siblings if I need to. But it's funny. I have this. Hopefully, I'll get these chairlifts in my parents' house within the next week and a half or something like that, which would be very helpful for them. Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. It is what it is. Just do. I look at it as like they've done so much for me. So much for me, and I don't. And it's funny, like there was a time when we had a reunion this weekend, and it was a pretty warm day, humid day, and my mom was feeling a little flushed and a little, just warm, and she wanted to go sit in the air conditioning in the car, and it was strange. I mean, because I grew up, this reunion has been part of my whole life, and all my cousins are there who have been part of me my whole life. So I'm used to going out playing, going in the water, horseshoes, whatever, just having fun, eating, drinking, having a great time, and I just hung out with my mom for 25 minutes, just standing outside the car, letting her be all good. And it was just I felt like that I didn't want or need to be anywhere else. I was like, and this is when I got upset. I just wanted to just fucking hang out with my mom, because she's my mom. And nothing else mattered. Nothing else mattered. Just taking care of her and being with her. And it just, I'm not going to be able to do that someday. So it was just really nice to be part of her, be with her. And even in that moment, So
yeah,
it's tough. It's really tough. There we go. First tears of the episode for me.
There it is, man. I'm sure those won't be the last. I'm sure those won't be the last.
Right.
Yeah, just to tail, or rather dovetail on what you just said, that trip to Australia, again, I went with my eldest daughter as well. And we had met my parents at Dallas-Fort Worth Airport when we went out to Australia, and now flip it, when we're coming back from Australia, we were parting from our parents at DFW. And we made it through, customs and all the other things, and then get through security on the other side. And now my daughter and I are going one way, and my parents are going the other. Hug them, say goodbye, and then my daughter, after we walk away a little bit, and now my parents are going to listen to this, and it probably will upset them. But my daughter, she said, "How do we know we're going to see Nani and Gramps again?" That's what Nani is, my mom. Gramps is clearly my dad.
Yeah.
And my answer was, we don't. We never know that.
And that goes for any situation.
Yeah, it goes for any situation with anyone.
Anyone, exactly.
Yeah. But man, that when she asked that in that moment, because I was already upset, saying bye to my parents after such a great time, but to ask, how do we know, not when we're going to see them, how do we know if we're going to see them again? I was like, oh, wow. Heavy questions from little ones. So anyway, but sometimes those questions really make you think, and make you appreciate life, not just your parents, but just life in general. So Sorry, David. So what about you, man? Any stories to share on kind of the practical support? I mean, you've already shared some.
I did, but that wasn't really practical support. It's interesting because this question makes me sad because I live in the Seattle area in Washington State. My mom's down in Texas in the San Antonio area. So I'm far away. I'm not close to my mother. My sister lives literally right next door to her, which I'm so thankful for. My sister she is a saint. I mean, everything she does for my mother, she drives her everywhere, takes her to all her appointments. As you said, she keeps track of her medications. She, makes sure she eats. She is literally, I mean, she's the powerhouse that does things that I mean, I can't even imagine. Every time I go down there, I can see the stress on my sister because it's a lot. She's taken on a lot and she wants to take it on because, it's really important to her. She's like, why would I have somebody take care of my mother when I can do it, But she also has, a full-time job and she still has one of her son is in college, So she still has a lot of other things going on. And this is a hard question for me because I'm far away and I feel so helpless so many times. Like I'll be talking to my sister and I can either hear stress or I can hear her trying to figure out, okay, I've got 8 things to do today, including getting mom to an appointment. It's like, man, I wish I was down the road where I could go help and I can't. And, based on my prior response about where she's living and this, that, the other, I mean, I tell my sister all the time, I can read contracts, I can read rental agreements, I can provide some financial support. Beyond that, I'm so far away, I can't do anything daily to help. And so I really try to not only help, by calling, checking on my mom, but I also, make sure my sister's okay. And it's like, what else can I do? What can I do for you? Because she really does provide the kind of support you're talking about, and it frustrates my mother because her commentary as of late is, I'm being treated like a baby. Oh, I'm not a kid. And that's really hard because you don't want them to feel that way when they're having memory issues I can't remember if I took my prescription or not, right? But my sister has her into a regimen where she, okay, you take your pill, you write it down. She's got a little system, a little notepad. And, unfortunately, if she's not doing that, we don't know if she's taking her medications regularly or if she's eating. To Will's point, I go down there and visit and I open her pantry and I'm looking at it going, man, we never had this stuff even in the house when we were kids. And why is she eating these foods that aren't really nutritious or as healthy as they could be, but they're just simple. When they don't have family to cook for anymore, they don't really make these big elaborate meals. It's more, I think, efficiency, and they don't want to waste either. They don't want to make something and then throw half of it away. So it's very interesting watching this dynamic, and it becomes difficult to not so much know where you can help, but to adjust your help to their needs. So it's okay. Well, let's figure out little meals. Let's figure out, like my sister, how to make sure she's taking her, her medications and if she's eating. And so she checks in on her regular. She drives her everywhere. She hasn't been driving for about, I don't know, 3 years now. And, she's still very, very self-capable, washes her own laundry, washes her own dishes, takes care of herself. No problems with any of that stuff, but it's just remembering. And so it's hard to really adjust to that. And like I said, for me, it's difficult when, both of you are getting emotional. It makes me emotional because I wish I could do more. And it's because of physical distance. And short of me packing up and moving down there, I can't really do much. And, getting my mom to move anywhere, she's 85. She's not going anywhere. She likes where she is. And she's not going to come live with any of the other siblings because now my sister has become her security blanket, her crutch. And
yeah, David. So what I found interesting is you're talking about your sisters. I just talked about, or your sister that's right next door to your mom. I've talked about my 3 sisters who live in my hometown. They're there to help. Isn't it something? There's something that is said that the daughters are who are going to end up taking care of you, right? They talk about people with sons. The sons, they're going to go out and do their own thing, but the parents with daughters, their daughters are going to be there to care for you. And here it is playing out. So I wanted to just mention, like, for men, what is it that kind of plays out in that we end up, in the majority of the cases, being the ones that are away from our family. Now, I will say that my wife, she herself is away from her mom and her dad, and her brother is living there. So I guess it's a flipped scenario. But have you guys seen that? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think one thing, just to chime in real quick, regarding my mother, because with age comes incontinence issues, right? And that's a big one for my mother. She's a very proud woman, and I've gone down there and stayed a couple times to allow my sister to go away for the weekend with her family or whatever. And that's a difficult thing for my mom, because the level of trust she has in my sister and confidence, and that's she'd be mortified if I had to help her with some situation. So I think that's part of it, and I'm not sure if it probably happens with older gentlemen as well too. They don't maybe want necessarily their daughter, maybe they prefer their son. So I think there's a little bit of that aspect to it, at least in my case. I can't speak for everybody, but I know that's been a challenge where, hey, let me help you. It's like, no thanks, don't even want you coming into my room right now. I'm in the bathroom or whatever it is. So I know that's part of it.
Yeah, and then Will, I mean, you've got two brothers, so it's all boys. So what are your thoughts on that?
We share the responsibility pretty well at this point. There still is that like male and female kind of. I don't know. I don't. We'll see what happens as far as the continence goes, like down the road. They seem to be pretty good right now. I mean, that's just another level of care, another level of intimacy, or not. You know what I mean? Like which is just like
dignity. It's the dignity piece.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's like fuck. I mean, it just. It's I'm in really just in the middle of it, like right now. And but I'm glad to have each other, and we're still managing pretty well on my end.
Okay.
My parents where they are, yeah.
So all right, well, so let's take it to the siblings, right? So my sisters are down in Louisiana. Will, you've got a brother living there. David, you've got a sister living there with your folks. How can we, as those who might be geographically separated, how can we contribute to those who are right there with them? Involving our siblings, involving ourselves with our siblings and their caretaking of our parents. How can we involve other relatives, maybe local support? What can we do there?
Well, I've been, it's actually, as our parents have gotten older, it's like, my brothers and I seem to be getting a little closer, because we're really, it's just like something about rallying around, like, our parents who have taken care of us, and now we're taking care of them. And I think like just supporting in the sense of like providing information or making phone calls, or maybe taking some of the time off of their plate, do it all, because they might drive them to the appointment and take them to the appointment, but I can set it up, or something like that is kind of what I'm seeing coming up more and more. Yeah, I mean, I think the communication with your siblings, with the family has been really important. And I'm very lucky as well. Where I grew up, we still have like, I don't know, 50 family members in the neighborhood. You know what I mean? Like a lot. I mean, there's a lot of Schneider blood where I'm from. And like and my mom's sister isn't far away, like half an hour away, which are very close, and we're always in communication. And it's just interesting. It's interesting how we just continually support each other more and more, and just find like it's just through love and through compassion and that we just find a way to make it all happen. And it's sad to see them decline, but it's also it's also very feels good to the heart to see how we're communicating now and really care for them in such a deep way.
Interesting kind of side effect, I guess, if you will, is as you start getting closer to your siblings again, even if you are geographically separated, potentially. Like David, you mentioned there might be challenges with your siblings as well about, hey, the different opinion on what is needed for your parents. So yeah, I guess an interesting side effect either way.
Yeah, I would agree with Will that the differing opinions was initially going to this facility that I had mentioned, but since then I agree with Will. So I also have a brother who's in Houston. He's only 3 hours away from my sister. But again, she's primary caregiver. Um, we dialogue a lot more now. I feel like we are getting closer. When your kids are close with your siblings, and then you go off and you have your own lives, and everybody raises their kids different, and you just realize how different you are from your siblings. And then you have to like rebuild relationships as adults. You have to like, come back together and go, oh, okay, let's try to be friends again. It's really different. But yeah, I've noticed us getting closer in the last couple years, and there's a lot more dialogue. And I think, my brother and I are both extremely conscious of what my sister's doing. And, she takes after my mom. She's very proud and wants to be that person. And it's hard to step in and say, well, let me do something now, or let me take over. I think we're getting better at saying, hey, you need to go on vacation. One of us is going to be there. If I need to fly down there and be there for the long weekend, or if it needs to be a week, give me some time. I'll figure it out. My brother and his wife have stayed with my mom. So it's like trying to allow my sister some of that space. And I think the other thing, which both of you have contributed to my life, of being more open and being more mindful. I'm trying to infect my siblings with that. And because will talk about anything with them, which I didn't used to do. 10 years ago, I didn't talk to anybody about anything. I was told a lot of times I held my cards close to my chest, but now it's like, I don't want people to go through things I've gone through, or to suffer, or to feel like you're alone. So I talk to my siblings a lot about a lot of things. And now they're finally starting to open up themselves. And I think that's one big positive I've seen in my sister, is she's finally asking for help. And she's finally saying, hey, I need this, or I need to get away for a weekend, or, hey, I like to joke with her, do you need some gas money? It's like, here, she deserves it. It's like, hey, here's a little Christmas bonus or something. I can't be there. Go pamper yourself, go buy yourself something nice from me, because I don't know what else to do, So it's like you try to do what you can. But I agree with Will that you're for them together, because it takes a village. Just like with young kids, you need help and support, and you can't do it alone. And the primary caregiver is usually the one who takes the brunt of the parental dissatisfaction, or whether it's a husband and spouse, whoever's taking care of that person who's struggling, they're the ones that really get dumped on. So we have to look out for those individuals. We have to look out for those people.
What I found interesting, what you just said, is that, we're all siblings, but we have different ways of raising our kids, right? You don't really realize how different you are until you start to see how the different parenting ways. And, man, I was a good parent until I became one. I remembered, I remember telling my sister how she was doing such a bad job of parenting, and I didn't even have kids yet, right? I have this shirt that says, I was a good parent too before I had kids, or something to that effect.
That's funny.
And man, the flip side of that, though, so we've all got our own kids, right? We've got our own personalities, but we've got our own kids. I've got my kids. My sisters have their kids. But we all have this one set of parents. And so we're all going to have differing opinions for what we're doing with these two people, but perhaps fewer, perhaps one. But it's not different kids. It's not different parents. It's the same parents. So those different opinions on how we should be taking care of them definitely comes into play. And yes, we may get closer, but we have to be communicating. Like you said, David, you have to be talking more often. Will, you said the same thing. I think you have to open up the lines of communication so that you're doing what's best for your parents, and you're doing what they would want, right? Not what you would want. Although there are going to be times when what you want is probably better for them than what they want, like you've already talked about, David, as well. All right, well, let's talk to the second act here, Will. So we've started dividing our episode into 3 acts. So let's go into the obstacle and the villains here.
I mean, we're already feeling it already.
Yeah,
the emotional strain of this, like the guilt, the frustration, the new level of emotional intelligence that's kind of needed as you go down this path. It's like I think it's also part of this as well. and also witnessing our parents in decline. I mean, it could also trigger some like grief or anxiety, about the future. You talk about anticipatory grief earlier. So like, why don't we like talk on an individual, or as an individual basis of like what the feelings are so far as we kind of go down this path with them.
I mentioned this before, right? I went to Australia to help with my parents, and there was a great level of sadness in the very fact that I had to be there. I mean, I wanted to be there, but the very fact that I had to be there, they didn't ask for it. I want to be abundantly clear that my parents are still very proud, and they're amazing people. They didn't ask for it. My siblings and I talked, hey, maybe they need some help. And my brother lives in Australia, so he was going to be there, but not for the whole trip. So I went to Sydney and to Brisbane with them. Anyhow, the fact that I had to be there was a sadness, right? You've, like David already mentioned, you've kind of seen your parents as these invincible people, and now here they are, needing your help to go up and down stairs, or needing your help to put a bag up in the overhead in the airplane, these kinds of things, which ironically, in the airport, I'm the one who fucked that up. I left my bag in security. Meanwhile, my parents were, they were still on top of things and they didn't forget anything. I'm the one who left it. But yeah, there's a sadness there. There's a guilt in that, hey, did I do enough growing up to help my parents? Was I a pain? Was I a burden to them? And then the flip side of that, there's a frustration like, hey, mom and dad, I know you as the mom and dad that I grew up with. Why can't you do this? Why aren't you understanding what I'm saying? Why aren't you understanding what I'm doing? Why aren't you understanding why I'm doing X, Y, or Z? Which, that frustration leads to more guilt. You're like, why the fuck am I getting frustrated with my parents who are just being human? They're aging. And here I am, I'm not young, but I'm not old, and I still have my strength. I still have my mental capacities, and they do too, to some extent, but I'm getting frustrated with them. So it's this weird cycle, like frustration, sadness, anger, guilt, and it's just like constant. But yeah, that's one of the, or I guess several of the emotional challenges that I've had in the very microscopic experience I've had of caring for my parents. Again, I'm geographically separated from them. So the one experience that I had to take care of them thus far was a trip to Australia that was 12 days. So I can only imagine those who are there as full-time primary caregivers, the emotional challenges that they face there. So yeah, that's my experience with that.
I've really seen my dad in a new way, in a different way, and understand him really in a different way. And I think like me, trying to slow the pace of my life down, trying to, be more mindful and be more present and be more patient. Like I've realized along, like probably like in the last 15 years, like, especially my dad, it's like, this is who he is. He's done the best he could with where he came from and his father and his coaching, his uncles and stuff like that. I've just really grown in greater appreciation for my dad, for who he is and what he does and what he's done for me. And, my dad's, I don't know what it is. He's not very, I wouldn't say he's very high EQ. You know what I mean? He gets easily frustrated and kind of throws tantrum, it seems like, all the time. Which is just like daunting to me, and watching your father do that. But he's there and he's and he cares and he really tries to help in the way that he can help or the way that he wants to help. And it's been it's just it's my dad. I mean, it's my dad, and the older he's getting, and as the years go by and the years come to an end, I'm just working with a greater sense of patience and acceptance, and just trying to again watch the ball games with him or help him in some way. We're always the one when I'm home, like running to the store, running to for whatever, and I just go on trips with him, whatever it is. And my little brother is gonna. My dad used to golf forever. Now he can't golf anymore because his back's like a real mess. And he's going to go out a couple times a week and just do 9 holes and let my dad drive the cart and my brother go hit some golf balls. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's, and my mom and I have been always very close. My relationship to her has become one of more patience and understanding and even, and more kindness, if you will, even though they can really frustrate the fuck out of me. For real. Oh my God. But that's just me. I think it's like, that's one thing I think it's important for people to realize, or to hopefully, as you maybe you're in the middle of it now, or maybe you're 10 years away, is just like, meet them where they're at, like express more patience, with them, listen more than you speak. And yeah, it's an interesting slope that we're on, and it's very slow and it's very gradual for me. And I'm just trying to spend as much, what the quality time, I think, is what it is. Like, how can you spend more quality time with them, and based on where they are, what their needs are, and what they're able to do, whether that's physically and cognitively.
I think the best way I can like explain it is it's almost like the stages of grief. It's like you're pissed off, and then you're in denial. It's just like, and I remember initially when I started seeing this in my mother, as I mentioned earlier in the conversation about almost not recognizing her. My dad died. I was 16. My sister was 13. And for me, it's like this, my mom's from Spain. She's still, she understands English like nobody's business, but she doesn't speak very well. She never got to that point. But to see someone, be left with 2 kids in school and just still make it happen, and not have either of us go off the deep end. I thought she was capable of anything. We used to, we traveled back to Spain when my cousin got married in like 1990 and got through all these airports. And now my mom, I can't even get her to travel with me. It's like, I will take you, I will escort you. And again, I remember thinking, who are you? It's like, when did you become Chicken Little? And for me to even like think that and verbalize that to my sister, now I feel like an asshole. Like, why am I saying not nice things about my mother? I love my mother. She's an amazing woman. She's a little old lady now. She's not this woman who I remember when I was a teenager, and I was an asshole. Went off the deep end. I was an angry young man. My dad died. We had a terrible relationship, which I didn't get resolved. And I was not great. To your point, John, I was like, man, I've wronged her, more times than she's ever going to wrong me, no matter what she does in her elderly stage. It's like, so you start thinking about those things, and, you can't go change any of it, but you try to do better now. And I think one thing that Will was talking about is you have to be more present and more patient. And I think a big lesson for my wife and I, again, because her mother is a lot more advanced, it's made us open our eyes to our life and where we are in our life. We're both in our mid to early 50s, and we're starting to plan for this because we don't want our kids to have to worry or struggle, and not so much just planning, but also having open conversations with them. Like, hey, look, this could happen. This may not happen. Here's what we want. Here's what we're planning for. Because so many of these conversations don't happen till later. And again, you remember getting frustrated with my mom. You don't have a will. You don't have this. You need a power of attorney. What is your death directive? What is your, how do you want to be buried? I remember when she told me she wanted to be cremated, it freaked me out. I'm like, what? And I was like, well, wait a minute. That's her body, not mine. And so I remember asking my siblings, do you guys know this? And so, yeah, I have these regrets of getting frustrated with her or getting angry or having all these strong emotions to what she wants or how she's living her life. And now I've gotten to a place where I can just sit there and have a cup of coffee with her. And if she asks me 2 times over how my son's doing or how the kids are doing, it's fine. I'm just going to answer her and enjoy that time, because it's fleeting. She's 85, and hopefully she has another 5 or 10 more years, but you never know. It's like, would I rather her be gone tomorrow or have her ask me 10 more times about my kids and have that cup of coffee 100%, because losing my dad at 16, I wish I had that one more time to have a conversation with him. I don't want to have that same feeling with my mom. And so I've been so much more present with her and patient. And yeah, it's hard to push those feelings away because we get stuck in our own, again, it's changing our paradigm. It's what we think our parents, who they are, what they want, what they should do. And you have to get to that place to be open, to listen to them, make good decisions, but just to be able to be present and just tell them you love them. I call my mom once a week because she doesn't need me to call her every day. I call her once a week. We have a nice conversation. Sometimes it's 15 minutes, sometimes it's 5 minutes, but she always thanks me so much for calling her, at the end of the phone call. And that's all. She just wants to feel loved.
Yeah. And that's another thing my parents said is stay in touch. They've got the three sisters that live at home, but they've got myself who lives in Colorado. They live in Louisiana, and then my younger brother who lives in Brisbane. And he's really good at staying in touch. But yeah, that means a lot to parents, and I can see that as a father now, as a parent myself. Like I think about, okay, well, eventually my kids are going to move away, and are they going to make a point to stay in touch with me? Which brings me to my next point is like, okay, we're talking about our elderly parents. What about when we are the elderly parents? And that doesn't necessarily mean 30 years down the road. It could mean right now, right? Like my paternal grandfather died very young. I want to say like 56 years old. So not old at all, especially in today's day and age. But, I could drop dead walking down the street. Ideally I won't, but I could. And then what am I doing for my parents, or sorry, not my parents, my children? What am I doing to ensure that they are taken care of, right? David, you talked about a will. My mom, what did she say? She said, every parent should have a will. Don't leave this earth without one. If you do, you ought to be ashamed. And I was like, right on, Mom, right on. And then like in the military, like as a 19-year-old, I had to write a will, my own will as a 19-year-old, which was very grounding. You're like, oh, what am I doing? And what am I willing? I'm willing my one pair of tennis shoes or something. There's not a whole lot for me to leave in my will. But I've had a will since I was 19 years old, but how many of us do not? How many of us think that we're invincible? And then for those of us who are children, kind of coming back to the whole point of this conversation is how many of our parents don't have wills? How many of them don't have those directives? And those are conversations that we need to have, right? We need to have these open, difficult, crucial conversations, right? The financial concerns, end-of-life planning, medical directives, wills, where and how do they want to be buried, right? David, you talked about your mom wanting to be cremated. My parents did originally. Now they're getting buried, and they've got their lots picked out. They know exactly what kind of casket they're going to be in, which I tell you, when they're sending me the place that they're going to be buried, and they're like, this is what our casket, I'm like, whoa, I'm not ready for this. But it's important that we have to have those uncomfortable conversations, even if we are, not ready for it. Guess what? They have to be had. Sorry, I didn't really have a point there besides just rambling.
No. I mean, that's part of that's part of this discussion that we need to have is the financial concerns, kind of end of life. I mean, do they, do they go into a care facility? Do they stay in the house? Do you get help, to come in and out, to take care of them? And that's one thing that we've been doing with them. It's like for now, like they're staying in the house, that they've been in for 47 years or something like that, we've come up with some planning, my brothers and I. It's like, get them, we have this house person, person that comes and clean the house. And I was like, well, have her come in twice a week, or just get in the house even more often, maybe she can help do the laundry and stuff like that. So, they've been really good, my parents and my dad mainly, with their medical insurance and, wills and stuff like that. They've been really good with that. I'm not actually sure of, burial and caskets at this point. It's like just another conversation I don't want to have, but need to have, for sure. They gave my brother power of attorney because he's the oldest, for what they need to, what's coming next, and where they are right now. But anything else on that, like financial end of life, David? Anything, John? You have some notes here as well.
Yeah, I've got, sorry, David, one more thing to jump on there is that we're talking about all this as responsibilities on us as children, taking care of our elderly parents. But what falls upon them for us as well, right? They have to have the will. They have to decide where they're going to be buried. What do they need to do in their last 5, 10, 15, 20 years that they're here to ensure that their parental responsibilities are continued to be filled, right? Like as a parent, you still want to take care of your children, even as you are much older. So, what can they do, right? The will, letting us know what their last desires are, their directives are, having those conversations with us, right? Maybe we aren't mature enough to have those conversations. Or rather, that's not quite what I want to say. Maybe we aren't mature enough to start those conversations. Maybe it's upon them to start it with us. What kind of mess are we as children going to have to clean up, right? And then, that comes metaphorically. What messes are we going to have to clean up? Administrative, financial, but then literal as well, right? My mom, she texted me. She said, downsize, declutter your closets, clean up your house now. That's going to release or ease the burden later. Don't leave the mess for your children. I thought that was interesting that she said that, but I was like, oh, yeah, some of this does. Still, as elderly parents, if they still have their wits about them, they still have responsibilities. So just a interesting side note there. But yeah, the financial piece, the administrative piece, we have to have those open end of life planning conversations from both sides.
Yeah. Good. And David, anything on that front?
Yeah, no, that's it's a hard thing because I think like the prior generations, our parents' generation. Think about us. Like nobody really teaches you about money. In high school, they need to have classes teaching us how to balance checkbooks and teaching us about money. It's like, you kind of learn what you learn on your own. I don't know that our parents had a lot of financial training. It's like even exercising. They never exercised probably when they were younger. They smoked and drank and had a good time, But
Yeah, exactly.
It's like if you've never had those conversations or if they don't know, it may shift, the responsibility may shift to us, right? To help them, because I talk to a lot of friends who are going through this with their parents, and it is surprising how many people don't have a will in place. But even beyond that, it's like, anymore with, somebody goes in and get put on a ventilator or whatever, have a do not resuscitate. There's so many, you lose so much control when somebody becomes debilitated, when somebody has a full-blown dementia or Alzheimer's, you lose control of their estate, you lose control of their finances if you don't have these things in place. So that definitely needs to happen. But then also you've seen when someone passes away and all the kids or the family members start fighting over the estate, or I want grandma's china, or I want that jacket. If there are things that sentimental, it's okay to have those conversations with your family to say, hey, what do you want? What do I want? Okay, hey, mom, or hey, dad, are you cool with this? Because what if they say, no, I want that to go to the grandkid, or I don't want any of you to have it because we're bad kids, or, I want it donated.
Right.
Some people want their estate completely donated, but they don't realize that if they don't put that in writing, it's not going to happen. People are going to fight, or they're going to get into disagreement. So I think,
that's a good
communication
point.
is a big deal. And I think some parents maybe don't know how to have that conversation, or they don't want to start that dialogue because the kids may have been fighting or whatever. But I don't know, as much as you can be open about this stuff, it takes a huge burden off the future, because you're right. It's having to clean up afterwards, or clutter, or leftovers, or, whatever it could be.
Even taxes, right? Like the taxes on the estate. taxes on inheriting a house. Those need to be conversations. Hey, do you want the house? Is it a burden you're prepared to take on? And maybe you should talk to an estate planner. Say, okay, well, if I were to die tomorrow and this house was to go to my children, you kind of initially you're like, oh, I'm giving them something, but maybe it's a burden. Maybe it's a burden they're not prepared to handle financially, not just mentally or emotionally, but financially. So I think those are some conversations that need to be had in that regard as well. And I'll be honest, my dad is a planner to the nth degree. I mean, that's probably where I get mine from. But like he's done a tremendous job in planning for this, and I hope that it's still 10, 15, 20 years down the road. But he has definitely communicated a lot to us about his desires, about like he designed the house that my parents live in. He's an architect, and the house is beautiful, very different from your traditional house. It's an architect's house. And, there's questions, okay, well, who's this house going to go to? As important as the house is, as a, tremendous memory for having him design it and having him buy the piece of land that it was on and clear the lot and build a foundation and then build a house and then live in it. The number of memories that we have in that house, are we still prepared to take it on? So, there's definitely a lot of things that we don't think about taking into account that we need to.
Yeah. And I need to have some conversation with my family around certain things. It's just like little things, like instead of, I don't know, what my brothers can be interesting, and I can see it almost be like a free for all in some ways if it's not kind of written down or pinned down, and I'd rather, what I don't want my relationship to be with my brothers after my parents are no longer with us is fighting over shit and then like being resentful around that stuff, and then like that's our relationship. You know what I mean? So like I think it's what you were saying earlier, David, is clean it up now, even though, like whatever that is, instead of just hoping that it's in the will or something like that. So that's a really good point.
I just added to my little to-do list that's off the side of the screen here. Update your will. Like the last time I updated it, I was still in the military. So that's 5+ years ago. And I've gotten more things since then. And,
yeah.
Well, and
I've had a new kid since then.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's true.
No, I was just going to chime in real quick and say, the first conversations I had with my mom about a will is she's like, well, if I start talking about my will, I'm going to die. Like almost like a thought process of she didn't want to talk about it, because then she's talking about her demise. It's like, well, you finally get them to that place where it's like, this is, you want to do something for us as your kids. This is something that would be amazing for us, because it's not, there's not going to be a bunch of issues after the fact. So I think that happens with a lot of people. They'd rather not talk about it, or they don't want to talk about death, or they don't want to talk about, and that is kind of prevalent in the United States. There's a lot of cultures that are more open about death and don't look at it the same way, but there are conversations that do need to happen, because it takes a massive amount of stress off the family. The death is bad enough. Losing a loved one is bad enough. Then you're having to deal with not even a complex estate, just everything that has to come afterwards. That's a lot. It's too much for some people to handle, and it just, take care of it now, just like Will said, because it will add so much peace to everybody's life, and especially that loved one. They wouldn't want you to be fighting after they're gone.
Yeah, exactly. I want to stay close with my brothers and not be like, oh my God, like, oh, you got this instead of me or something like that, or you took this, whatever. And it's just like, that's not what my parents, when they're no longer here, would want. I think that's another thing to think about is like, honor the family unit, like keep the connection alive. And how do you, within, this end of life experience that everyone is going to go through, whether it's going to be a slow decline or whether it's going to, happen really fast. I mean, it's like, if you have time to create the conversation and necessary conversation around it, so it's like as easy as a transition could possibly be, then I think that path would be the best served, to do it that way.
I want to bring up something that we've kind of alluded to tangentially. We talk about when our parents are gone, or when they're soon to be gone. Um, and I referenced this book earlier, Being Mortal. And, some of the things that are covered in this book, Being Mortal, are, prioritizing prolonging life over quality of life. And I know that's something that as children, we want our parents to live as long as they can, right? We want to prolong their life because we don't want to lose them. But that could be selfish on our parts, right? It's like being a pet owner, right? Sometimes we prolong the pet's life because, hey, it's we don't want to lose the pet, but really it's harder on us to let the pet go. Well, sometimes it's harder on us to let our parents go. I don't want my parents to go, but am I prioritizing the wrong thing? Am I prioritizing the prolonging of their life over the quality of life? And I want to make sure that as a child, I'm prioritizing their quality of life over that. The other side is like in that book is we don't talk about aging. Like we talk about it like a condition, right? like oh, you call it the age virus, right? You're aging, but we all do it, right? Modern society, with medicine, with all the technological advances, we treat aging as a problem to solve. And Will and I, we've talked about what's that guy's name that's right now he's trying not to die. Brian Johnson. Yeah. Like, interesting episode, interesting individual, but aging is something that it's going to happen to all of us. Right. And aging is not a problem that needs to be solved, but it's a stage of life that needs to be supported. And that's something that we need to understand. And then lastly, and this is a piece that we've talked about quite a bit in the book, it talks about conversations that we avoid. So specifically, talking to our parents about their condition. Like, do you understand your condition? What is your understanding of your condition? Right? And I say condition, it's aging, but like truly, where are you mentally, physically, emotionally? What are your goals? Yes, you're towards the latter part of your life, but what are your goals? What can I help you to still attain with your mental and physical capacities that they're at? Like, what are your goals if your health worsens? And then what are you willing to sacrifice or not, right? And then last thing that he talks about in the book is, what does a good day look like for you in this time, in your current state? I think those are, So the book, Being Mortal, phenomenal book, definitely tied to what we're talking about here, and some of the conversations that we have to have with our parents are covered in that book. So check it out.
Yeah. I think we've done a pretty good job here, gentlemen, with this. Like, we're coming up, we're well over an hour. Wow. Yeah, I know, exactly. I've been watching that time.
Where did the time
go,
man?
I know, right? But thanks, guys. Thank you, gentlemen. What have you have closing reflections from your parents, like staying active, stay curious, laugh, right?
Yeah. So, man, one thing my parents do still is they play Wordle. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Wordle, but basically it's just it's kind of a word game, as the name implies. They play it, and I play it with them on occasion. I need to play that with them more regularly. Keeping passion alive, whatever that might look like. There's a reason that we're here, and part of that is having a passion, whether that's physical passion, intimacy, or a passion that you're pursuing in your life. Like, my dad has been a cyclist as long as I can remember, my whole life, even longer than that. And then, like I said, staying in touch with your children, I think, and a lot of that falls upon us as the children, is we've got to stay in touch with them. So I think those are just the last couple of things I wanted to make sure we touched on again.
What I'll say also is, like, get the family together, like get more of your family together. That's one thing I've been very blessed with this reunion. That is, like, this year was the 79th year, which is incredible. That 78th year this year of this reunion, but it's like, it's a celebration of family. It's a remembrance of family, the members that have passed. And it's just, there's something about, if you're able to do that or make it happen, if you can be that person in your family, whoever's listening, to get your family together as often as you possibly can, because those are memories that you're always going to be able to take with you and have. So
I giggled there, not because you were wrong, I giggled there because I've got my 3 young kids, 8, 6, and 4. And, when they're fighting, as young kids do, I mean, old kids do too, but fighting like young kids do about the most trivial thing in the world, I always tell them, hey, one day, family is going to be everything to you. Love your sister, love your brother, love your parents, love your cousins, because one day they're not going to be there. And I think that's what this show is all about. This particular episode is one day some people that we love very dearly, namely our parents in this particular episode, are not going to be here. And what can we do to ease that for them and then take care of ourselves at the same time?
Yeah, no, agreed. I think, this is something that a lot of people our age are dealing with, and we get done with this and then we're starting with our own adventure, our own experience with our kids, and taking these little tidbits we put out there. I mean, this is just scratching the surface. You get into the cost of coverage and care and short-term care and different things, in-home care for, there's so many other places we can go. But I think just talking about this subject, which a lot of men don't do. You talk about our sisters and our mothers, they're the caregivers. Well, men aren't talking about this, and whether we're suffering with guilt or depression or the fear of losing our parents, that it's okay to talk about this stuff, but it's also we need to prepare ourselves and our kids, do a better job maybe than our parents prepared us. When you know better, you do better. So if we can keep building on this and again help our kids to understand the process and what we're going through with our parents, when we get there, they're going to do better for us, and hopefully we can do better for them. But I mean, we talk about longevity in life. A lot of these studies about long lives, one of the aspects is your relationships, socializing, having strong relationships with your friends and your family. It's like Will saying, get together. Yes, get together with your family, get together with your friends. If you don't put it on the calendar, it's not going to happen, And so, you keep saying, oh yeah, we're going to do that someday. Do it tomorrow, do it next week, do it next month. Don't put those things off. I mean, that is the spice of life. Money doesn't make you happy. It might give you more choices, but really it's just about people and spending time together. And, we do a little toast when with all of our grown kids, our adult kids now, they're all young adults. And we always, we always raise a glass, and we say it in Spanish. It's a la vida rica, to the rich life. And I always tell them it has nothing to do with money. It's that experience. It's us being together. That's the rich life. So, be in the moment.
I tell my 8-year-old that she's obsessed with Taylor Swift, which is funny because my son's name is Taylor, and he keeps thinking, he's like, well, where's my Swift? I'm like, no, that's not what's going on here. Anyhow, I asked my daughter, I said, which one would you rather be? Would you rather be rich or would you rather be famous? And she said, I want to be famous like Taylor Swift. I said, well, Taylor Swift is famous and rich. And she said, okay, well then I want to be rich. I said, well, you are rich. And she said, no, I'm not. I said, yeah, you are. You have family who loves you. And that's, I tell you, there's no riches like that. Having family and friends. And that's the thing. Friends, what is it? Friends are the family that you choose. You brothers are my family. I consider you a family, and I consider some of my other closest friends as family.
Thank you.
And being, staying close to them, staying in touch with them. There's no other riches like that. So I love that you finished with that, David.
Yeah.
I think that's a wrap, fellas.
Awesome, guys. Let's just do one breath to close. Exhale out. One big giant inhale. Fill it up. A little more. And let it go. Awesome. Well, there we have it. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Thanks for checking us out. John, David, great to have you back on the show. John,
Appreciate
always great
it.
to see you.
Thanks for having me on.
Hey, leave some comments, subscribe, support, Men Talking Mindfulness, share it on your social. Let us know what we
And
can.
hey,
Go ahead,
I
John.
think we'd all be remiss if we didn't say thanks to our moms and dads.
Yeah, exactly.
So
thank
you all. Thanks for our listeners. Thanks to mom and dad for listening. Thanks to my mom and dad from me for contributing to today's episode. So love you guys. Love you, David, Will. Love you, mom and dad.
Same.
Love you, brother.
Until next time.
Yeah.
Take care.
Later.
Thanks, everybody. Peace. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us today. We hope you walk away with some new tools and insights to guide you on your life journey. New episodes are being published every week, so please join us again for some meaningful discussion. For more information, please check out mentalkingmindfulness.com.